Hola!
Hola.
Photos. Too late. Everybody wave.
¡Qué emoción!
We're back.
If I can do it, other people can too.
Si él puede hacerlo, entonces todos pueden.
Y por supuesto sabemos que se refiere a Jesús.
And in this story, we see God preserving God's people for this purpose.
I used to cry, but now I hold my head up high. You see me.
Bueno, me imagino que eres tú porque reaccionaste.
Son.
Dime, lavando las manos.
Ah, ya.
Segundo.
Who has one nose? Who has two noses? Dos noses? No. Dos noses? No. No? Who's not like that?
¿Quién es?
Amado por Dios.
Vamos a
de aroma. Puede esperar, ¿no?
And we're here. We made it.
Your pastor.
But Jesus' response was so different than any other man's.
Pero Jesús respondió en una manera muy diferente de otros hombres.
¿Quién vive? Cristo. Y a su nombre, gloria. Y a su pueblo, victoria.
Bueno, muchachos, buenos días. No, pero que ese se salió tan triste.
Alabaré a mi Señor. Alabaré, 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 alabaré a mi Señor.
I want to thank you all so much for being so gracious to all of us. I've had the best time. I wish I could come back every day.
We have given out 140 meals to the homeless alongside the street.
I was really struck today by the look on people's faces when they realized that we had food.
See, just see how what you do touches, you know, the lives, just the smiles it brings out.
Hola.
El amor no es ansioso.
Grande es el amor de
And here we are for such a time as this.
Porque es el cuerpo entregado por nosotros. Dios de la vida. Por nosotros y nosotras.
Tu fidelidad sigue persiguiéndome.
As always, we appreciate that you put that together and summarized our 9-day trip in 6 minutes. I don't know, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I'm going to invite the other team members to come up so that we can share our experience. There were 9 of us that went on the trip this year. A couple of us were repeats, and a couple were new. Let's see, Nick and Joe it was their 3rd trip going, and then Aaron and myself, it was our 2nd trip, and then everyone else was their 1st trip, and they had new eyes to see how the experience went. So there's some other pictures up there that might jog some of our memories. I know some of you have already shared with me that you've got certain things that you want to share this morning. So probably the easiest thing is to just send the microphone down the line and you all can share. One thing that was really meaningful for me that I'll share with all of you is having gone back the 2nd time, seeing the growth that has happened in the congregations and more than that in the kids. We recognize the way that they had grown in a year. And you may have seen that really quick clip when we were in Medellin. There was one of the girls that as soon as she got off the bus, she was like, Pastora Becky! And she ran over and like attached herself to me. And so I got to spend some time with her and another little boy. And when it came time for them to get back on the bus to leave, I was in tears. Because part of me thought, where are they going and what is their day-to-day life like? Because all the kids in Medellin were living in a barrio of refugees from Venezuela. And so the life of an immigrant is challenging no matter where you are. And I know that the church is supporting them, and actually the little girl's mom is one that cares for all of the kids in the barrio. And so I pray for them all the time. In fact, the little girl gave me a bracelet because she said, I don't want you to forget about me. And I put it on every day and pray for her. So.
Hey everybody, so I'm way more comfortable like picking photos and videos than talking. I'll keep it brief. This is my 2nd time with this group. Well, this 3rd time if you count, Joe and I went to the Assemblia, which is like their general conference, and David was there too, and Todd was there too, and it was a grand old time. But this is the 2nd Clifton trip I've done to Colombia, and I knew a little bit of what to expect. Like I knew we were gonna go to the trans-inclusive salon. I knew people were really gonna be touched by us being there. I know we were gonna have like basically Clifton in Bogota with that really cool Methodist church there. I knew Iglesia Medellin was going to be very evangelical and, you know, a very like pumped up worship service. I knew the scenery was going to be good. I knew the food was going to be good, but the Holy Spirit always surprises you. And I think for me, that big moment was when we went to the nursing home in Medellin on Thursday. And so many of these folks who didn't really have family or friends or any other network were there. They were just like so, bless you. They were so excited to see us. There were lots of folks that said, you know, take my picture. I don't want you to forget me. You know, the same thing that you were hearing. And that was just a really profound experience. And an old man also sold me a clock that he made out of bicycle chain, and I'm waiting to hang that up in my room. But, oh man, amazing trip. Highly recommend.
I also recommend going to Colombia. It was really fun. It was great to go back and see, like what Becky said, a lot of the same people who who are obviously still there, growing and developing in their spirituality. And so that is really encouraging for my own spirituality and my own continuation on the path, on the journey. And it did, you know, so I don't know if I can verbalize this, but so they have their own life there, their own joy. And when we got there, they just like said, hey, come and be joyous with us. And so that was remarkable. And it was obvious that, you know, it wasn't like a show. They are living it. And they're just letting us party with them. Mm-hmm. So that's how it felt. And so it was great to see that and to see, you know, that they're still a family together. That's encouraging. Like I can imagine that they're there right now in Bogota. They just finished their service and maybe they're doing something together, eating hot dogs. They go to karaoke or they're really into karaoke. And so that's encouraging. It's fun to imagine them. And yeah, we did some new mission work with a group in Medellin and visiting this nursing home that they had just created a partnership with, I think, kind of recently, within the last year. And that was very profound. It was very moving. And the work they're doing there at the nursing home itself was incredible. So I think I could say more, but I think that's it. I'll just pass the microphone to
that you swung on the swing set at the nursing home, which I thought was a great idea for a nursing home.
I think maybe the nursing home was a school at some point prior, and so there was a swing set there, and there was this older gentleman swinging, and so I got on the swing next to him, and we were swinging together, and he was telling me stories as best I could understand about when he was little and swinging. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So I have 3 things I want to share. I wasn't sure how we were doing this, but the first is just my overall reflection on these 2 churches. And it kept dawning on me over and over again how much alike they were to what I imagined the early churches to be. Because these are house churches. The church in Bogota is really just a small building. And the one in Medellin is literally a house where worship takes place in the garage and driveway. But the love that they have for one another, the love and affection that they show, their service to the community and to those on the margins, so they're living it out in a huge way, and their hospitality with us. I genuinely felt like they were so happy to have us. And as an old woman as I am, these young guys would seek me out to talk to me, even though I can't understand Spanish, but we had translators, you know, and they would sit with me to chat. They were just happy for us to be there. So their hospitality was just amazing. So just really living out their faith in just a beautiful, beautiful way. The second is a story from the nursing home as well. I guess we all really felt very touched by the nursing home, but I worked in the room with the dentist, who was a parishioner, who was a dentist and brought his mobile stuff to check the people's teeth. And these people, by the way, that live in this nursing home were all on the street. at some point. They were abandoned, which was amazing to me that, you know, this place exists. So while they were waiting to see the dentist, I would take lotion and massage their hands while they were waiting. And that's something I've done on other mission trips, especially where I don't know the language, because it's a way to do something with them, usually with children. But this one woman sat down, and as soon as I touched her hand, her chin started to quiver. She turned to the side like this and just bawled. So the few of us were there at that time. We all kind of surrounded her with tears in our eyes. And she told us that she is never touched anymore, that she is never physically touched. And then she went on to say how lonely she is. So it was just a reminder for me about our need for human connection, our need for one another in this world, that God has made us this way, and that physical touch is important as well. And then the third thing I want to share that I would highly recommend is that it was just a thrill and amazing and a treasure to go on this trip with my grandchild, Sam, and just to watch him connect with these folks and just make friends that he's still in touch with. And he was a translator, or they were a translator for us as well. And it was just, and at first I thought maybe Sam wouldn't really want to share a room with their grandmother, but it would have been far different if we had not, because we had so much fun, we laughed, we had great conversations, and it will just be a treasure all my life that I shared that with my grandchild.
So, like Becky said, it was my third time going, and if somebody was to ask me, you know, why I keep going, I guess I would say because, you know, I see God through them all. You know, the Colombian church picks or plants new churches in marginalized communities. And to see a community that is marginalized and has a lot of the members have faced harm through their lives and, you know, hard times, to see that those communities reach out to other marginalized communities to show, you know, God's love to, you know, salon that, you know, is run by and caters to the trans community and all others, to see, you know, a congregation reach out to the homeless living in basically what's a river going through the town, under bridges or under trees, and to feed them. To see, you know, a marginalized community reach out to refugees who are immigrants who had to leave their home country, Venezuela, and are living, you know, in, you know, not so good situations, and provide them like the materials they need to be able to go to school. They have a, you know, a clothes closet. They, you know, where, you know, people can just take whatever clothes they need, the kids or whoever. You know, it's just, you know, just seeing this domino effect of, you know, like, you know, what we are providing those two congregations, and then what they're providing others, and then even like the salon that, you know, they provide too for, you know, that the lady who runs it, she provides to others in the community, you know. So it's just, you know, just seeing this web of God's love just spreading, you know, just from a little drop from us, you know, just trickling down, and it just makes it just, you know, such a, you know, finding such joy in a situation where you wouldn't expect to see joy. It's just, you know, let you know, coming from here where, you know, our political situation right now is just so conflicted, and, you know, people against people, and just going somewhere where, you know, people are just helping others, you know, even though they don't have everything they need themselves. It's just, it's truly, in my eyes, it's, you know, seeing God's work firsthand.
So this was my first time going, and it was also one of the first activities I'd done with this church. My grandma invited me out. I came to like an Easter service, I think. But other than that, this was my first experience with Clifton. And I figured that, you know, the church is very inclusive, and me as a queer person, that was important to me. And going down there was absolutely no different. The churches there were very, very inclusive. I felt very welcomed by everybody, and I was meeting a lot of new people in a very short amount of time, but that didn't matter. Everyone was very, very kind. Not just that, not just were they kind and welcoming, but some of them really warmed my heart in how inspirational they were. We met an activist who was involved in the early, I guess, protests and stand up for liberation of queer people in Bogota, and his partner was tragically killed by a grenade, and he was exiled. I guess he went into exile because he was receiving large quantities of threats towards his life, but he came back to Colombia and continued working, and was even able to somehow, through his political work, to make it so that you could put gender fluid on your passport as an option. And so he's done a lot of work for gender fluid peoples and gay people of all kind. Also, my friend Alex, you might have seen him in the wig up on the screen. He's a drag queen in Bogota, and he himself was grown up in the Catholic Church, and he was being trained to be a priest at a very young age. And when he didn't feel like that was right for him, and when he came out as gay, he didn't feel very welcome, and he also left the country for a couple years, spent some time in Spain, and then came back and was able to find this welcoming community that he goes to. And also to Julio, who was the dentist at the old folks home and the parishioner at the church that Grim spoke about. He was from Venezuela and lived with his family, also came out as gay and didn't feel welcome, and moved to Medellin, where he was able to find his community. And so it's just very inspirational to see these people working so hard also and finding their truth in this new place.
So everybody wants to talk about the nursing home because it really was amazing. And the fact that the government took this old school with a yard. It was a campus. It had a beautiful yard with flowering trees and fences and a swing set. It was just gorgeous in the mountains. It was beautiful. And they managed to, I don't know, buy this school and find people that were unhoused and living on the street that were older, and bringing them in and supplying their needs, both emotionally and also spiritually and medically. And Becky and I, when we walked in, so Medellin, it's about 75 to 85 all year round. So the windows are always open. We walk into this main school building, and the first thing Becky and I said is, it does not smell like a nursing home. It was glorious. It was, and the people were so happy. They wanted to share everything with you. I have the vast majority of my pictures are of the people there who said, take my picture. I have so many great pictures, and they pose and they do all sorts of things. They were really, really, really thrilled to have us there. One of my special buddies for the day had a coloring book and stood there and showed me every page he had colored. He wanted to share that so much with everybody. They were making clay figures around a ping pong ball. Some of them were exquisite. There was one woman who was not doing the prompt, so to speak, but it was interesting, and I don't speak Spanish, but she had the ping pong ball as a stomach and was making a figure around it. And I think, was it Nick, you asked her, or you did it through Google Translate or something, what that meant? Was it you, or was it Aaron? Yeah, and I think she talked into your Google Translate, and it was something about she was remembering abortion or something. So it was really, really touching. The other thing that I thought was really, really interesting, the US dollar goes a long way down there.
our money goes a long way. So when we give U.S. dollars, it can do a lot. The other thing that really was kind of interesting to me was that Pastor John in Bogota did not receive a salary. When they were showing us their numbers, he got a love offering. And somebody had asked why it was a love offering and not a salary. I can't remember who asked that. And then the bishop said it's because if they call it a salary, then they have to pay for benefits. Then they don't have the money to do so. So basically, he's doing a lot of that work for free. A lot of that work. And that work is, it's so...
He spends more of his and Fabio's pocket per month.
Yeah. But I also love Pastor John a lot because they, even with all of these trials and tribulations, everybody else said they are so full of joy. Pastor John and his husband Fabio took us to explore Bogota one day. We went through Government Square. Government Square is huge, and it has billions of pigeons. And the first thing Pastor John does is he puts his hands up like this, and he goes and he runs through all the pigeons and makes them all scatter. So they're very full of joy. It was a wonderful trip. So many things.
Okay. Most of my memories are from Bogota because I got sick in Medellin and spent most of the time in the hotel not feeling well. So most of my best experiences were in Bogota for a very selfish reason. The weather is cool. I'm really not a hot weather person. It was beautiful. And as an introvert person, I have a harder time in larger groups. And what I really loved was making individual connections. Pastor John and John doesn't speak English very well. And we sat next to each other at dinner one night, and through my mediocre Spanish and his almost non-existent English and a little bit with Google Translate, we actually had a great time talking to each other. And it was kind of fun because he's a really fun person. He has a very childlike spirit of joy in him, and he's just a lot of fun to be around. I really, really liked him. I mean, I liked everybody, but it was kind of fun to have that moment with him where we're trying to communicate, and it was really more through facial expression and gestures and a few scattered words here and there. But it was really wonderful. And another person there I made a connection with was, of course I'm blanking on her name. I think it was Christina, one of the singers. She had this gorgeous, gorgeous voice, and her English is about as good as my Spanish. And so we were able to communicate a bit, but she told me when she was up there singing, sometimes she wants to sink into the floor because she has kind of this self-esteem issue. And I tried to tell her in my broken Spanish that her voice was a gift from God and that it was gorgeous, and it was one of the more beautiful parts of the service. I mean, her voice just rang out. It was beautiful. And then later on, we did this activity where we all got broken up into animal groups. Yeah. And Aaron and I were dolphins. We were dolphins. And then Christina was also in that group. She does an amazing dolphin impression. Yeah, Christina, I hope that's her name, does an amazing dolphin impression. It's like really good. And the last thing, I'm sorry I'm going on a bit, but the last thing, the last connection I want to talk about is that in Bogota, we had an activity day for children. And they got a lot of fruit that it took hours to cut up, and ice cream, and they weren't exactly cookies. And we were told to make sure every child got a bowl because it may be the only meal they get for the day. And I was sitting there with my group, and there was I remember the boy's name was Santiago, and he wasn't eating. And I made a comment about how I couldn't eat ice cream because it made my stomach sick. And he said, "Me too." And so this poor little boy was sitting, and the other little girls kind of understood that, and they were giving him like the cookie without ice cream on it and stuff. And so I went up to one of the people who spoke English and told her that the little boy couldn't eat the ice cream. So they went back and got him like a giant bowl of fruit. So the cookies were gone by then. So he was able to have a meal. And the children were eating about half of it and then wanting to take it home to their siblings or to their parents. And so the spirit of giving, even in these kids that were probably like 9 and 10 years old, the ones I had in my group, was really beautiful to watch. And even though I couldn't talk to them too well, I really enjoyed that. So thank you.
Okay. So I would say that, we all have very unique experiences on this trip. I was grateful to be able to help translate normally in day-to-day interactions and do my first official sermon translation with Reverend Becky, which was nerve-wracking, but I was proud of myself. For me, it was just revolutionary because as a missionary kid, growing up in the Latin American culture, I knew the culture, I knew a lot of the language, I knew how things went. But when my theology changed and I became affirming, I thought I had to give all that up. I thought it was over. Because of the culture, because of the machismo, all that stuff, that my love for those people, I had to put that aside. And thankfully, God used this trip to renew that fire in my belly, that love, that care, that desire. And I'm wearing the cross and flame that Fabio, Pastor John's husband, gave me on the trip because that connection and our mutual love for Christian education and me helping them, giving them a few resources for their discipleship program was very valuable for me. And then to just be able to use my Spanish for a week straight has even just helped me be able to enter my new job as an ESL teacher with a lot more confidence in my abilities. So I was very blessed and plan to go back next summer, potentially for a little longer period of time. The last thing I wanted to say was Bishop Luis Andres and his wife Elizabeth are two of the best human beings I know. They kind of took me under their wing, and obviously they connected some, but I was speaking Spanish with them all the time. And so, there was that level of connection there. And in a lot of ways, they become spiritual parents to me since my parents are no longer that. So it's been quite a blessing.
I will also share with you, if you were one of the individuals that donated the school supplies or other things that we took with them, they were in awe of when we pulled up these bags full of things, and they just kept pulling things out and were so appreciative that they would have resources for their children's ministry, that they would have the prayer shawls to give to individuals, that they would have just additional things. The resources, the books that we took were so meaningful for them. So whether you gave an actual thing or whether you gave a financial gift that helped us get those resources, thank you for that. It was very meaningful for them. Last year I said, or 2 years ago, I said that Robert would be taking the trip this year, and then things changed and I got to go. And I'll repeat what I said last year. You won't have as much fun next year if you decide to go with Robert as you would have with me. Just kidding, that's not true. I know that you'll have just as much fun. And it'll be nice for Robert to go and get some context in those places, but they'll have to hear over and over again where I am, I think. Not that I'm tooting my own horn or anything, but we did have a great time. It was a fun trip. I would, if you have an opportunity to go, just as you heard from the team members, I would encourage it because it really helps you see the world through a different set of eyes, and you learn another culture that is not our own. And the other thing that I learned this year that I hadn't learned the year before was they have communion every week. And the reason they have communion every week is because, are you advocating for that, Celia? Oh, maybe we need to talk to the board. The reason they have it every week is because so many of them were denied communion in other places. And so it's important for them to receive that. So that was really meaningful for me as I was shared that. And Bishop was presided at communion at both services that we were at, and that was also meaningful to get to know him, to share that week with him, and to hear his heart and Elizabeth's heart, his wife, who's in medical school, by the way. So really impressed by that. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers that saw us through. And I encourage you, if you're able, to think about going. Yes, you have a question? I'm sorry? What things can we take next year? It'll probably be similar things like school supplies were really appreciated, and that's an ongoing conversation that we'll be having with them. I know the prayer shawls were extremely meaningful to them, and so I know that we'll be taking those. And part of what we had to think about in going down there too was the weight of the bags, and even we were switching things, I think, at the airport, trying to even out the bags so that we didn't have to get charged something as we were going down there. But we came back a lot later than when we went, for sure. So thank you for that question, and we'll keep working with the churches because we want to make sure that we're taking what is useful for them on their terms, not on our terms. And so we'll keep asking the question because they have continued to communicate with many of us through WhatsApp or through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. So that is what's been different for me with these trips in our day of social media. 20 years ago when I was taking trips, you'd get to know somebody for a week and then you'd never see them again. And now I'm seeing them on a regular basis on social media and we're messaging back and forth, and that's really meaningful. So, yes, David.
So I know that folks pay a bit of their own way, and the church paid a bit of the way. In the end, how much was the church able to raise to support the mission, and how much short?
We, Robert has said that we made him really nervous because a lot of the money didn't come in until like the last couple of weeks. And so we were thinking that we were going to have to figure out how to make up for some money, but we had more than enough to go down there. And we even had one member who had sold some crafts, Cindy, on Facebook and was able to leave some donations with the church.
In those 2 weeks, because we thought we were shorthanded, I got $700, split it $350 for each church on behalf of Clifton, and just think of what I said about what $350 is to those churches.
Yeah, a huge difference. Thank you. Celia? That's a good question. I don't know if everybody heard.
Okay. Well, okay, some of the things are actually more expensive there that are sourced here by the time it gets there. You know, so but there are some things that are definitely cheaper to get there. Like the 2 years ago when we went, you know, one thing we sourced while we were there was a computer, and it was definitely way cheaper to get a used computer there than to get a used computer here. So it depends upon what you're looking at. Now, like, so, you know, something that I've been doing is like planning for next year, like Walmart and Kroger's has been clearancing out all the school supplies right now, and I'm already, you know, getting 25-cent box of crowns, you know, a couple dozen, you know, just, because that's something we know they will probably, you know, that those are used up during the year. They're probably going to want those sort of things, you know, crowns, pencils. There's a whole list of things.
Crayons for those
Yeah. So, thank you. So, so there are some things that definitely are worth taking, because we have so many free bags we can take. We could end up with, too much and, at that point decide, what to take or what not to take or what to pay for, because, but we haven't had that fortune yet.
And also, we did not have much free time to be shopping. It was a pretty intensive trip, I will say that.
You're the designated shopper? Okay, that'd be great. One thing that they did request that we didn't have as much of were children's Bibles. And again, there's a weight with that, or even like children's books about the Bible. We did take some of those, but I think that might be something that we think about taking money for next year and either leaving for them to do the shopping or figure out if there's a way, because one of the pastors had sent me a link to like an online bookstore there that it felt like there was a translation issue with trying to get the books and money and all the things, but we might be able to just leave, and they may have decided to use some of the money that we gave for that purpose. But again, part of what we're trying to make sure is that we're asking them, what is it that you need, rather than deciding for them. So yeah, Robert.
Just in response to David's question about money, we did fundraising for the team, and then the team was able to bring some fundraising resources, some funds down as well. I'll take this real quick. But you might also recall that last Christmas, we took a Christmas offering to support the Colombia Mission Partnership. That was not to support the team. That was purely to raise money to support the two churches. And if my memory serves me right, which is probably iffy, but it's probably about $3,200 that we sent to each of the churches in January. So that was $3,200 split between the two churches that was raised by this congregation through our Christmas offering. So we supported the churches at about that, plus whatever resources we were able to bring from our team, and of course our ministry presence. And it's our intention to raise money both to support the ministry as a mission partnership alongside our commitment to raising money to support our team and our team members that go.
The silent auction and concert was for the trip.
That was for the trip, yeah.
Yeah, the silent auction and concert that we had, was that in April? That was to raise money, and it was also a way for us to bring some of that feel of community around music that they have down there here at Clifton. We only had one person that did karaoke because I kind of forced the hand, and we had Bill that did the karaoke for us the last time. That was fun. So yeah, it's an amazing connection. I don't know how many of you follow the churches on Facebook, but I noticed after we were there, at least in Bogota, they were able to do some updates on their building. Did you all notice that? And I wonder, I don't know, if part of that was because of our opportunity to give a little bit more. We did hear that they were having some problems with water coming in and damaging their electrical systems, their PA systems, thank you. So what we're doing makes a difference, and the relationships make a difference, because last year when we went, they said no other church had ever visited them before. And it was significant for us that we were intentionally going to these two congregations. So thank you for making all of that possible and for allowing us to be representatives there. It was a joy. Okay, if you have any other questions, see these people.